I've texted both of them now.
Okay, we'll give them a couple minutes. We'll see.
Yeah, let's just give it, is anyone willing to chair the meeting?
Yeah, I can say a couple words when needed.
I nominate Cole.
Give me some prompts when I'll
Okay.
try to read the room properly.
Yeah, do you have a copy of the agenda in front of you?
I have it on my phone here, yeah.
Okay, why don't you pull that up? And I think after you get that, we'll start, and all you need to do basically is call the meeting to order, ask for a roll call, and then take us through the agenda. And I think we can proceed with the folks that we have. So we'll help you.
All right, sounds good. And so I would like to call this meeting to order. Do we have a quorum?
Let's call the roll. So Chair Jesse Moles-Ehring is not here yet. Vice Chair Lisa Frazier is not here yet. Carl Cuthbertson.
I'm here.
Chelsea Gailey.
I'm here.
Cole Kenworthy.
Here.
Here and standing in as chair. Thank you, Cole. Andrew Landstrom.
I'm here.
Brianna McCormley is not here yet. Jason Pattison.
I'm here.
And Rob English.
Here.
And we do have a quorum.
Next up on the list would be agenda changes and approval.
I have no changes to the agenda.
Do we need to do it all in favor? Or we just keep moving right along.
No, we can just keep moving right along.
Number 3 would be minutes review and approval. Minutes from our regular meeting on December 15th. Is that one we're going back to?
Yes.
Has it been that long?
We'll need any changes to be noted and then a motion to approve.
No changes I'm aware of to be noted. Motion to approve.
And Cole, can you call for a second?
This is Andrew. I second.
Thank you. And call for a vote.
Can we vote here? And all in favor say aye. Is that how this would work, or raise our hands? Is that how we're going to roll?
Raise your
All
hand
in
and say
favor, raise
aye.
those hands.
Aye.
Aye.
I
Thanks.
Jason Frozen. Oh, nope.
Aye. Sorry, my
Thank
connection
you.
might be really bad.
Thanks. That's unanimous.
All right, as we move along, we got discussion items, review memorandum of understanding between town and Torque.
Yeah, so in your agenda packets that went out last week is a draft memorandum of agreement that I worked on with the folks at Torque. And it's essentially a framework that lays out the cooperation and partnership between the town and Torque for the trails that we talked about at our last meeting, which would be shared use trails for mountain biking and hiking at Kate's Creek Park. A very short sort of beginner trail. And if you read through the draft agreement, you'll see that the town is essentially agreeing to provide the trails as for biking and hiking, and to also support the project through, media, social media, signage, and, posting about it, sharing resources and information. And then the Torque, for their part, is agreeing to provide the layout, the design, the construction of the trails, and also to regularly upkeep the trails for us, which is quite a gift. They've also been willing to provide technical assistance and consulting if questions come up or if changes need to be made. I think we can probably rely on them to help us navigate those decisions. So the MOU, this is just a draft, and it will have to be approved by the Hillsborough Board of Commissioners before it can be signed by the manager. But I wanted, before we send it, of course, to the town board, I wanted you guys to have a chance to look through it, raise any questions or any concerns, and just have, sort of one more chance to talk about this project, and then hopefully to make a recommendation to the town board.
We were out there walking a week or two ago, and it's great. It's been cleared out. It looks really nice and visible out there. My concerns were the dual use, but we didn't come across that, being that it's a nice, pretty easygoing neighborhood. There just weren't any issues with that last week or the other few times. So I've appreciated the clearing of it, and it's been fun to explore down by Cates Creek. It looks beautiful.
Yep, and I do think that the clearing that you're seeing so far, Cole, is sort of an initial, raking aside of the
Right.
leaves to try to start thinking about the layout. I do think that the trail construction, I think you'll see maybe a little bit more improvements made
Okay.
once the MOU has to, of course, be approved before Torque actually comes in and constructs the trail. So you can probably expect to see
So
some
that has
better.
just been volunteers
Yeah, that's
out there
basically
sweeping that off? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
just kind of sweeping it off and starting to think about where the layout might be. And
Okay.
yeah, so I think we would see more actual construction of the trails a little bit later.
Okay.
And again, it's something that we'll have to continue to monitor in terms of how much use it gets. If it's congested, then we may have to think about, some signage in certain places.
Okay.
But I don't expect it to be attracting mountain bikers from
Right.
far off distances, because it's such a short little trail. It's really more of a neighborhood
Perfect for the neighborhood kids over
level.
there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So did anyone have any, was everyone able to kind of review the MOU? Did anyone have any questions or thoughts?
Stephanie, this is Andrew. And, my only question, you kind of already sort of addressed, and I know we had talked about the potential for just making sure everyone's safe when you have people walking versus mountain bikers, but it sounds like your thought is the usage for mountain bikers will be low enough that you don't anticipate too many collisions, right, of pedestrians and bikers all at once.
I think it's a fairly small trail network, and I also think that it's a really open section of woods. There's not a lot of understory like there is in some places, so the visibility is really clear
Well, that's
through there.
fair.
Luckily, there's not a lot of invasives. You can see people, you can hear people. I
When
don't
we
think
step
that we're going to
off.
see. Yeah, I don't think we're going to see. Hopefully, we won't see accidents or. But I do think that we'll have to monitor it for the first couple months and see if there's any problems that come up. And there are some examples in Orange County of shared use trails, and there are also some examples of hiking and biking trails that are on the same property but that are separated by signage, and those seem to work too. So we'll just have
Yeah.
to.
When keeping tabs on it, would that be something that would be like, I'm reading through here, but like, would we need to designate somebody as like a park steward to kind of make sure, or would it just kind of, word of mouth, or just trying to keep tabs on it the best?
Yeah, I think it becomes like a new amenity in Cates Creek Park. So if it's something that Andrew could check on every now and then, and just be an extra set of eyes, that would be great. He's our Cates Creek Park steward, and that would be wonderful. And of course, staff will also check on it, fairly regularly. But it's always nice to have one or two sets of, different sets of eyes on something like that.
I thought I saw
That-
some in there that said a monthly walkthrough or something, just to check on maintenance stuff.
Yeah, and Cole, putting the word out to the little school teachers who use the trail, use the trails pretty frequently, that it would be nice if they would just kind of be stewards too and let us know, like, oh, this section isn't working, or we have this one tripping hazard and our 2-year-olds fall over it every single time. Opening up those
awesome.
lines of communication would be good with the little school folks.
Perfect. They would love to be to have any say or to be able to report back. That'd be great. So.
We can deputize them, park stewards.
Yeah, I was just thinking,
Let me tell you.
I have two boys who would love to be like junior stewards
Yeah.
to check on the trails. And, there are times where I'm less able to go out there, but my two boys would absolutely love to watch out for things. And I think between the three of us, we can help out too.
That's wonderful. That's great. I definitely think what I've seen during the pandemic is that usage at our parks often goes up on the weekends, which is not when Lindsay and I are working. So having people check on their parks on the weekends is really helpful to me. Otherwise, I sometimes have to put those hours in just to check and see how things are going, but that can be very helpful too, Andrew.
Sure. Happy to do it.
Yeah, it looked good to me, Stephanie. It looked like you had covered everything. I saw that they have the so the insurance thing. Do they name the town as an additional insurer? Or is
Yes.
Okay.
And this draft has gone to our town attorney, Bob Hornick. He provided some clarification and some help early on as we were putting this draft together. It was actually built off of another agreement that Torque already has with Orange County. I think maybe for the Hollow Rock trails, if I'm remembering correctly, which includes some mountain biking trails. I think I'm remembering the right park. But anyway, Bob has blessed it. So that's always nice to know that he's taken a look at it.
Looks good. Now, do you need them to approve this to move forward tonight? What do you need these guys to do?
If you guys are comfortable still with this project and you want to endorse it, then what we would need tonight is a motion to recommend that the town board receive and adopt this memorandum of understanding.
Well, then I propose that there's a lot of words that I don't remember off the top of my head, that we approve of what Stephanie just said. All those in favor say aye.
Oh, we need a second. Wait, did Rob? Hold on, I need a.
We're going second on that. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you. And now the vote was unanimous.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yeah, sounds like a great project. I look forward to getting this.
Yeah, it's great to see something move ahead. This pandemic has put a halt on so many different things. It just feels good to move something forward. Great.
Fantastic.
And as we move along, Parks and Rec related reports. First up, Board of Commissioners.
Oh, snap. Put my agenda back up. So I'm really just kind of review this last meeting we had, which was a marathon 5-hour meeting that did have lots of meaty stuff in it. One of the things is we've been in discussion, town staff, for many, many, many years with the Fairview community and the Fairview Community Watch regarding their neighborhood and ways that the town of Hillsborough and the police department specifically support them. They came to the board to formally ask for increased access to the police substation / community center. So I don't know if all of you are aware, but there's a police substation in a community center in the Fairview community that's used to house part of the police department. Part of the patrol unit was there for a while. And then it's also used for Fairview Community Watch events that they do in the neighborhood. But the police department has some of those individuals have been relocated back to another town building, and so there's less need for it from a police department space need. And the Fairview Community Watch group is interested in utilizing more space, having more access to the building, potentially building on recreation programs and enrichment programs and educational programs into that too. So the town agreed, the town board agreed unanimously to support that effort of increasing access, to continue discussion with the police department about whether. So the next part of the discussion is does the police department stay there with a limited number of people, what that looks like, how we get people in the community more access in terms of keys. There's a whole, security issue. So we'll be talking about that with the Fairview Community Watch and town staff moving forward. But that was one thing that is exciting, because the community has wanted their own community center or a community center in that community for decades. And it was partially produced, but not entirely. So we're hoping that we can provide more access and provide more support to that community by having increased access to the community center building and potentially even a larger community center in the future. Any questions or comments on that? We also talked about street light fixtures and street light shields. I don't know if you've all been paying attention to some of the comments around town, or even noticed in your own neighborhoods, but Duke Power has begun changing out their old bulbs with new LED bulbs. And there's 2 different bulbs that they use. And Stephanie, correct me when I say something wrong or you want to fill in. And we had an agreement with Duke Power that they would use a certain series bulb. And when they were doing this replacement, they were replacing it with this other one. Residents around town, recognized that the light was different, and it'd be different anyways, regardless of what LED bulb they actually use, but it was significantly different. We heard from dozens of town residents that they didn't like the new fixtures and we need to do something, and so on and so forth. So town staff scrambled to talk to Duke and clarify the agreement that we had using a certain bulb. And so that was clarified, and they agreed to come back and change out any of the bulbs that they incorrectly put in with the ones that we wanted. And then also moving forward that we would use the bulb that we specified, in all fixtures basically moving forward. And then there's a issue of a shield where these new units can shield the light either in the front of the pole or the back of the pole, because you have some residents that want more light in their yards and on their property, and you have others that don't want any light or very little light onto their property. So the town board and town staff still have some things to work out in terms of the shield and who pays for it and what that all looks like. But what did I leave out with that, Stephanie?
Yeah, the only clarification is what makes it really complicated is that unfortunately it's not just a bulb, it's the entire fixture. So a 4,000 Kelvin fixture, even though it looks like a 3,000 Kelvin fixture, it's actually different. It has a different filter in it for the light, which is what changes the light from sort of a cool, cold blue to a warm tone. So that Duke has to order all new fixtures and replace the entire fixtures. They've agreed to do that on their dime, which was very, very generous. It's about 230 fixtures total.
We had a little update about Collins Ridge. There's a little snafu with where we were hoping or planning for the affordable housing aspect of that development to go in. So there was some discussion about potential other places where that part of the development would work. And then we're waiting to hear back from the developer about some options and ideas. But we got And then the last big thing was the noise ordinance and the rewriting of the town noise ordinance. So the town board also unanimously agreed to pass Chief Hampton's recommendation of the noise ordinance moving forward. And the real difference is the the changes really were that there's firm stop times for amplified music. So now, what is it? Friday, Sunday through Thursday, all amplified music needs to be stopped at 11 p.m. After 11 p.m. Doesn't need to be stopped. I'm sorry. Amplified music cannot be heard from the nearest closest residence or another business. So people can still be playing amplified music after 11 p.m. on those nights, and then it's 12 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, but it has to be at a level that it's not a disruption or just disturbing to the nearest closest residence or another business. And then the second part of that is the civil penalties that are added to violations, basically. And then lastly was just, we're getting ready for a work session. It's coming up Monday, and then all budget related things moving forward. So the town's staff is busily preparing for budget showdown. And that's about all I got.
That's a great summary of an incredibly long meeting. That meeting went till after midnight, as I understand it. Yeah, I think I fell out of my chair at about 11:40, so that was when I was gone. But the one other thing that did come up during Collins Ridge that I think this board will be interested in is one of the requirements on Collins Ridge was for a greenway to circle the property. And one of the places that they had showed the greenway originally in the master plan was cutting down the Duke power easement where the transmission line towers are. As you're driving down South Churton Street, you can look over to Collins Ridge and see these giant transmission towers. And an arm of the greenway was shown on the original site plan in that easement. Duke did not agree to allow that portion of the greenway there. They have very strict rules about about what you can locate and where you can locate near a transmission line for safety reasons. And so the developer has, asked to switch that portion of the greenway now to actually wrap further around the site and connect over closer to the town's train station property, which really helps us accomplish our connectivity goals more than the original alignment. I had some concerns all along about trying to maintain the greenway in that Duke power easement, because Duke power easements are often sprayed with stuff. I don't really want people walking through whatever they're sprayed with. We have worked with Duke on Riverwalk to reduce that type of grounds maintenance, but the transmission towers, it's a really different it's a different monster. So I think the town board agreed, I think also unanimously, that the new layout is more in keeping with the connectivity goals in town, and agreed conceptually for that change to happen. Rob, am I capturing that correctly?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I completely forgot about that, and very important point. So yes, it definitely brings us close to the train station and better connectivity, kind of moving through. So it was actually a good addition.
Yeah, and just to remind everyone, the developer is building the greenway, but after it's built, it's turned over to the town. It becomes a public resource, and we maintain it in the future. So it becomes, just like Riverwalk, part of our greenway system, open to everyone.
And the train station, what is that location again?
Do you know, if you're coming up South Churton Street on where Orange Grove Road intersection is, if you turn right as if you're going into Collins Ridge, just past those gas stations and little businesses, in the first section of woods, the HYAE ball fields are back there, that's the
Yeah.
train station property.
Okay. All right. Trying to picture that in my head. It'd be so
Yep.
wonderful. And that starts what? Is that 2023? Was the proposed time? Or
The
is-
train station we are moving forward. We have a funding agreement that has been executed, and that was executed in late February, and we have 7 years to deliver the project.
7 years. Okay. Thank you for that. And thank you, Rob, for that breakdown. As we keep going, the planning board.
No gas, no car.
And Lisa's not able to join us tonight, so we can just move on past the planning board.
All right, we're heading into the intergovernmental parks work group.
Oh, snap.
Sorry, right back to you, Rob.
What happened to Jesse? All right, let me find my other notes. So for those of you that don't know what the Intergovernmental Parks Work Group is, it's a group of individuals from many different government agencies and nonprofits. So there's people from the town of Hillsborough and Hillsborough Parks and Recreation, Open Space Greenways, Chapel Hill, Chapel Parks and Recreation, Carrboro Parks and Recreation, Orange County Parks and Recreation, Mebane Parks and Recreation, and then UNC, I guess it's UNC Campus Recreation, people from Triangle Land Conservancy, people from, I thought, Stephanie, there were people from the school system, and yeah, there are people from the Orange County School System, Chapel Carver City School System. Who am I missing?
I think it's all the providers of parks and recreation in Orange County except Duke Forest. I don't think Duke Forest participates, but I know Eno River Association participates as well.
And so it started, I don't even remember how long, maybe 10 years ago, more than that probably.
No,
but-
it was 2000. It was 2003 when it started. Yeah.
Time flies. And it was a baby of a former Orange County Board of Commissioner, Alice Gordon, and she felt that it was important for all these entities to get together because we're always working on similar things, but not necessarily in the same room. And it would be good to get people together to talk about what they're doing in their own municipalities and organizations, and how it can benefit all residents of Orange County. And we haven't met for almost a year, I think. And so this group had a lot of new faces. There's appointed members from like the school boards, and from some of the other organizations, basically that are providing outdoor space or recreation. Lots of new, even members of staff. So it was kind of reintroducing everybody and what they do and who they work for. And then the theme is what have they been doing this last year through the COVID experience? How has it affected what their organization has done? A lot of the same themes, came out of it. Y'all are probably aware that people got outside during COVID in droves, and so the number of people that were hiking on trails and in open spaces and at parks and just outside being active skyrocketed. And so spaces like that Triangle Land Conservancy maintains, and Orange County maintains, and the town of Hillsborough maintains, that we all maintain, just got loved to death, which is a good problem to have, but at the same time, it created a whole bunch of kind of maintenance things that you didn't necessarily plan for or prepare for. So having to have sanitizers, lots of different places, having to have or change your cleaning schedule if you're providing space for bathrooms. A lot of it was focused around just how people even feel about, delivering services and stuff during COVID. And one of the big things that came out, that I got out of it, that I think everybody agreed with, is is that parks, recreation, open space is an essential service, and that even in these times of pandemic and times of need, that it's needed even more than ever. So that was what people kept on continuing to say, was that it reaffirmed that what we do as park recreation professionals and open space and environmental services people is very important, and people benefit from it, and that it's kind of here to stay for a while. So it was very positive. What did I leave out, Steph?
No, that was great. I think one of the things that also came up again and again from different staff is just that increasing accessibility and equity in our parks, spaces, and programming is something that still needs a lot of work, and that COVID presented unique challenges in terms of providing recreational program for those jurisdictions that have programming. Internet issues, as you are all very aware, they can be really limited in certain parts of the county. And so most of the recreational programs in the county went virtual for the last year, and that cuts out a huge segment of the population just that doesn't have the internet access that others do. And access, for seniors, access for folks with low vision, access for people, anyone who has, trouble getting around, it continues to be a problem. The trail systems were what was specifically noted in this meeting as being essential for public health. And our trails, that we have very few handicap accessible trails in Orange County. And so that was something that was noted as a topic for a future board meeting to talk about. We also talked, I think, Rob, jump in here if I'm remembering incorrectly, but we also talked about partnerships in the future. So some big projects. We talked about the next agenda, reviewing the draft countywide racial equity plan, which is in development right now, and looking at our parks and recreation programming and capital improvement projects specifically with a racial equity lens, and as well as starting to think about how our climate goals overlap and intersect with parks and recreation. And so I think that in the next year, I think we'll see those things occur on intergovernmental parks work group agendas.
Right.
Which I think it's exciting to see those really important sort of key priorities come together.
Rob and Stephanie, and I'm just curious if everyone's budget's contracting. I'm sure town of Hillsborough is no different, and I'm sure budget cuts will have to be made, at least in certain places. With the overall sentiment that parks and trails are essential, and the costs are actually going up, right, as budgets are shrinking. I wonder, is there any chance that budgets could be cut for parks and trails in Hillsborough? Sounds like everyone's pretty much in favor of continuing funding, but you never know. And so what's your thought?
Well, I'll tell you, our budget was cut last year. So, we in Hillsborough, we work on an accelerated budget schedule. So I develop the budget usually between October and January. By February, I'm pretty much done. I've got everything laid out for the next, year. We have a 3-year budget, but only 1 year is like secured funding. So last February, I was feeling really good. You guys will remember we put in the reforestation project. We put in the accessibility project. We had all kinds of projects, right?
Yeah.
That was February.
Yeah.
And then March came, and that entire budget got shredded.
Yeah.
Through the shredder. And we had to take everything out.
Yeah.
So this year has been very, very tight. And that was intentional because we had no idea what the impacts of COVID would be. And so our manager was very conservative and careful to really focus in on the most essential providing the most essential services and protecting public health, safety, and welfare. And this year, a lot of things had to be delayed because of that. What I'll say is, I don't think the picture ended up, or has ended up so far, as gloomy as was originally projected. And so, hopefully, going into this next budget year now, we'll start to see a little bit more funding for new amenities and new projects. And as well as federal stimulus money, which is really where most of our sidewalk and greenway money in this town, for all the projects we've done, most of it has come from federal or state grant programs. And so I'm very hopeful that infrastructure money will start coming in that can be used for some of our connectivity goals and parks goals in the future. But we just have to wait and see. Our real purpose right now needs to be planning for that and setting priorities and figuring out, what order to go in. And that's something the town board's going to have to work on as a part of our comprehensive sustainability planning process, and probably in setting some transportation priorities here in the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, it would seem like looking for areas of synergy where Parks and Rec can also address climate change, can address connectivity, equity. All those areas seem like great areas potentially for actually investment. And there's no better investment money than someone else's. And so if we can, you know what I mean? I think there may be an opportunity actually, because you have all these plans in place, and there may be a lot of areas where you can kind of kill 2 or 3 birds at one stone. So anyway, just thanks for the answer.
All right. I think we are down to Park Steward reports. Starts with me, Gold Park and the dog park. Last walk around, the dog park was looking good. The outside of the park seemed to be fine and being used by a few families. Reading down here, did something happen to those bathrooms as well? Yeah.
Yeah, we had a couple days last month where the bathrooms had to be closed. It was like, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Sometimes I'm not sure how things that happen in public restrooms happen, but it was one of those, oh my God, moments. Yeah,
Okay.
like every toilet was broken all at the same time. So we had to shut it all down, fix it, unclog things, and get it back working again. It may have just been, one of those days.
I mean, I assume like any other park, everything's being locked when it needs to be. It's just during a rambunctious hour.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm really not sure how it happened. We have vandalism in our parks from time to time. I'm not
This was a new
certain if, the first thing that came to my mind when I saw the state of the bathrooms was that someone's 3-year-old was allowed access with no supervision for 40 minutes. That's what it looked
Wow.
like. It looked like the way a 3-year-old might vandalize something. I'm not saying that's what happened, but anyway, you guys can probably imagine what it looked like. There's just toilet paper and all kinds of things shoved in all kinds of places they weren't supposed to be. But we got it up and running again in about 24 hours. So thankfully it wasn't that big of a deal, but.
Well, the outsides of the park have been looking pretty solid. I haven't noticed anything there at the dog park. And as we move on down Kate's Creek Park, Andrew, you're up.
Yeah, so I'll be honest. I've been haven't frequented that park as much as I may have wanted to, mainly because of just stuff going on with work and stuff. But when I drive by, it looks great. I did send my 2 deputies, my 2 sons out there to check on the bathrooms. They, of course, only checked on the men's bathroom for good reason, because they're both boys. And they said, look good. There was a frog in the sink, which is not atypical. Everything looks fine. But hopefully this weekend, if things lighten up a bit, we'll have a more careful walkthrough, maybe of the trails back behind it.
All right.
Definitely. We ever did like river or water cleanup over there at Case Creek? I know you've done stuff in the pollinator stormwater stuff, but have we ever done like a cleanup down
We
below?
haven't needed to. Actually, there's almost no litter in Kate's Creek Park. Very
Nice.
little. Yeah, I've had a lot of people volunteer and they don't find anything. I don't know if the little school folks might be picking stuff up as they go, or if there's a neighborhood person or group that picks stuff up, but there's very little litter in Gold Park or Kate's Creek Park, actually. The litter problems that we have in town tend to be roadside litter problems rather than park litter.
Good.
And Murray Street Park, but Miss Frazier's not here. So it goes down to Kings Highway Park and that's right.
So I was out there today. There were actually a couple people in the parking lot also, so it's always good to see other people there. It looked good. The trails they look good. It hadn't rained for quite a while, so it was nice and dry, because I was out there maybe a month or so ago and it was wet and yucky, but still fun. Yeah, everything looked good out there. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary. Picked up some trash and disposed of it, but yeah, everything was good. Looking forward to that biodock.
And the Hillsborough Heights Park, that's me. Everything looked good. The mulch that I brought up last time had been smoothed over. Everything looks clean and together. Fence was all intact and the grass was cut when I was by there last week. So it's all good. Up next is the Riverwalk and Jesse, who's not here. I was walking on it a little bit today, at least. At the fork of go to Gold Park or head toward the Riverwalk. And it was clear that way. I didn't make it all the way to Weaver Street. But it was clear in the section that I was. How is that? You mentioned a fungus that was growing on some trees in the Riverwalk. Stephanie, did you mention that like a year ago? I have, every time I go out there, I try to figure out what if something is something. And I'm not quite sure.
I'm not sure, but you may be remembering the EAB, which is emerald ash borer, which is an invasive pest that's in all of our ash trees. And we will inevitably lose them all. Once the borer is in there, there's really nothing that can be done about it. We lost an ash at Town Hall's campus that was an enormous tree. It was really sad to lose it, and it was really hard to take it down because it was so big. But yeah, the EAB is a real horrible pest, and we have quite a bit of ash down on Riverwalk. So something we have to keep our eyes on, and we have to remove them when they're infested because they can be dangerous and they can fall very quickly. Yes.
All right. And the next one would be the Turnip Patch Park.
I think that's me.
I haven't been by that one other than walking by with my dog.
So both Turnip Patch and Murray Street are doing well. We have, as you guys know, we planted the stream buffer at Turnip Patch a couple years ago. We've had a good amount of that plant material has survived and is growing and thriving. At Murray Street, we planted as a bird park last year, and almost all of the plant material survived. So that's very good. This plant material, once it's planted, it gets kind of minimal upkeep other than just weekly waterings for the first year or two, or in high drought times. But the next step at Turnip Patch will be to stop mowing the really steep bank that goes up to Okanichi Street. And this is to, it's part of our sustainability initiatives and master plan for that park. There's really, in my opinion, there's no reason to mow an area that's not used by people for lawn. Otherwise, it's just a waste of the gasoline, the weed eaters, the energy, the time, and it often leads to erosion. So I have directed the grounds maintenance crew to stop mowing that steep slope at Turnip Patch, although they will continue to mow the portion that's by the road. So people can obviously step off the road and walk, on the side of the road. And the part in our master plan of the slope that is less steep and it goes down to the creek and people use it for sledding and stuff, that will continue to be mowed. It's just the most steep section that you'll see a change here in the next couple months as we move into that phase of the landscaping. But I was really glad to see as much plant material survived in the gardens and also in the stream buffers at both of those parks. It helps that we had the wettest year on record. That's it's good for plant material. Maybe not great for other things, but good for plant material.
All right, that takes us down to staff updates and the accessible music stations installation schedule.
Yeah, so we are moving and shaking. Anyone who's been to Gold Park will notice that the concrete pad that was donated by Lux Creek, which is a Hillsborough business, has been put into place. That's the pad near the restrooms that will receive the new musical playstations. These are handicap accessible playstations. They can be accessed by a wheelchair. They're installed on concrete so that they don't have a slippery or soft surfacing around them. And there's a giant marimba. There's a giant set of chimes that are different sizes of pipes. There's some drums, hand drums, and then this round feature that when you turn it sounds like a rain stick. So those 4 musical playstations will go at Gold Park, and then another 4 will be put at Kate's Creek Park. And Public Works has it on their schedule to install either next week or the week after. So I will certainly do a press release and send pictures out to the general public when that's done. They're finishing up some stormwater work right now. And as soon as they're completed with asphalt and stormwater work, that installation is the next thing on the list. So that's very exciting to see. Yes, and that is a project that was, originated in this board and has, I think, been long awaited and long overdue, probably.
Yeah, great. So that would have been in what Andrew was talking about earlier, our budget that got cut. This is one of the things that has kind of survived or made it through.
That one made it through. Yeah, absolutely. The town board rescued that and made it a priority. And then we had the donation of the concrete, which saved thousands of dollars by a local business owner who does concrete work for a living. So we were very lucky.
Great.
Stephanie, this is really cool news. And I'm curious, it's Andrew, sorry. I'm curious, when you all announce things like this, you mentioned the press release too. Do you all do like the Facebook group? So I'm not a member. I was a member, and then it was getting a little heated around the time of the Buc-ee's controversy. And I decided the last thing that I need is just more sort of polarization in my life. But there are a lot of people that really like that group. And about a year ago or so, there was a lot of people who are wanting like handicap accessible play equipment. So I'm just curious, like, is there a role to like jump on that group and be like, hey, look, like,
so
and I think
the town has social media accounts.
Right.
And all of the newsletters and press releases that we send out are also sent out in social media.
Perfect.
And then I don't think I know that town staff isn't allowed to comment on non-town social media about town projects. That would just be sort of a public information tangle, for the officers to try to keep up with all of these like different groups. So we use the official town Facebook and Twitter, and I provide the content and information, but it's actually put out by our public information office. And then any questions or concerns or ideas that come in are fielded through them and sent to me. So the public information office is responsible for all of that upkeep. So if you want to sign up for something on Facebook that's not one of the community groups, then you could sign up just to be in the town of Hillsborough's, like, I think you like that page, and then you would get those social media posts in your feed.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep.
They're not nearly as assertive group, Andrew.
Man, it's crazy. You give people a little public platform and people just go nuts. So I hear you.
The
All right,
Bellevue
I'll
branch.
just, yep,
I'm sorry.
I'll just move on. No, you're fine. I'll just move on down the list here since we're in staff updates. The Bellevue branch is the little creek behind Bellevue Mill that runs between West King Street and Eno Street. And there's already a trail system that was put in by the developer as a part of their special use permit. It was a requirement back in 2007 when that project was approved by the town board. The trail is already there, but the bridge is being installed by the town.
Okay.
And so it's a 25-foot glulam wood structure pedestrian bridge with metal supports and concrete abutments. And we are applying for the building permit right now. Once that's issued, the general contractor believes that the work will take 2 weeks or less. And I am hoping that it will happen in May, but it's really dependent on when the permit is approved. So hopefully May, it could be as late as early June. But again, as soon as that work is done, I'll be sending out a lot of information via town website and social media to let people know about it. Right now, there's not an official creek crossing. I think people can still get across because it's a fairly small creek. But the bridge will make
They've placed
that
some
connection
stones in
official.
a particular spot. And nothing official, huh? They've got some stones that help you cross over. It's been nice. It's nice. A lot of people are using it down there, and it's cut my trip to Whips in half when I am over there in West Hillsborough. So it's awesome.
Okay, so the biodock is actually that project has changed just a little bit. Originally, it was going to be one floating dock that had these open cells in it that would hold wetland plants, and then the native wetland plants would provide some water quality for Lake Ben Jonson. What has ended up happening is that we are putting in, this is through the Stormwater Division, they're actually funding the project. Terry Hackett, you'll remember, has been a guest at our meeting a number of times. He's a colleague of mine, and through our stormwater utility fee, there are funds that are generated that can be used for water quality projects. And so the Stormwater Division has assigned some funds and also was able to find some grant funds to fund this project, even though our town budgets had been cut this year. And so now what we're getting is a floating dock kayak launch. It's actually a pre-manufactured dock that is put in with a gangway to the shore. And then the floating wetlands sort of sit beside the dock as separate structures, and those are being designed by someone who has special expertise and knowledge in floating wetlands. So anyway, it made more sense in the end once we looked at the engineering for the kayak launch to be maybe a little bit more rugged, a little better. People have to slide their boats in and out, and having the plants along that dock, we just didn't know that they could take the abuse of being like on the same structure. So anyway, they'll be adjacent to each other. And the schedule for installation, that building permit has also been applied for. Once Orange County is able to issue that permit, we'll move forward with construction also in May or June of this year. Any questions about the biodock? Or that is our only official like water access point in Hillsborough for boating. I don't know if there's other places that people put in, but that is the only one that is official and permitted, and we can, advertise it as such. Let people know they can come from other towns. They can come visit Hillsborough for the day and launch their canoes and kayaks at that point in the river.
That little state DOT pad off of Riverside Drive off of 70, is that in town limits?
Nope.
Okay, I didn't think so. But
I don't know that that's an official launch area either.
It is according to River
Is
Paddle.
it?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's been newly permitted.
Undeveloped. I mean, it's a steep little trail down to the river with lots of poison ivy. So it's not a pretty launch place, but
Yeah,
it'll get you to fuse forward.
Yeah, well, that's actually that it's good to have one on that side of town. Because from the Kings Highway Park, the dam is right there. You can't actually go east. You can only go west on the river. So that's exciting to have another option there.
And
But
I
that's
think
outside of
it's
town
even
limits.
better now with the new bridge, because then they made the shoulder actually much larger on Riverside Drive and stuff too. So I think it'll be better.
Yeah, we might want to note that whenever we do our master plan update, though, just to make sure that that's listed as a resource, because our ETJ gets very close to that area, even though it's not in town limits.
Okay.
So repair and maintenance items, I just wanted to let you guys know about. A couple months ago, there was some deterioration on the floorboards of the Riverwalk Bridge near Weaver Street. I don't know if you guys noticed, but we just got some big holes and rot, and we tried to fill some of the holes with some epoxy. That seems to have worked a little bit to just lengthen the life of those boards. Part of the problem is it's the wettest year on record, and that bridge did not dry out for about 8 months. And no matter what kind of wood you use or how it's treated, when it sits in moisture for that long, eventually it starts to rot. And that's just the way that it goes when you use wood. So we are seeing some deterioration of those floorboards. We were able to replace some of the ones that had tripping hazards in them, but it's something that we're going to have to probably come up with a plan of how to budget and repair work in the next couple years as we see continued deterioration happen on the bridge. The bridge by Calvin Street is it has more sunlight on it, and so it dries out faster. It also has a greater slope to it, so the water doesn't sit on it as much, and we're not seeing as much deterioration over there. We do a bridge inspection with Alpha and Omega Engineering Group. Comes in once every 3 years to inspect our pedestrian bridge structures, and then they highlight sort of 3 levels of work: immediate, safety concerns that need to be dealt with, more, sort of moderate issues and repairs that should be made. And then they also give us just like areas of concern or things to keep your eyes on. And we build our repair plans and maintenance plans off of the feedback from that report that's generated. And our next report will happen late this summer or early fall. So I'll be excited to see what the engineers at Alpha and Omega suggest for those floorboards. There are some other options of different materials that we may consider, like concrete is an option, or even just there are harder woods than the Douglas fir floorboards that we have. But anyway, it's something I'm keeping my eye on. If you guys happen to be down there and notice some areas that are starting to, to rot out and create tripping hazards, just please let me know. And right now we're sort of replacing one board at a time as we need to with pressure treated, just to get us to the point where we can do our formal inspection and then hear back from an engineering company what their recommendations are for a long-term repair. Any questions about that or no? Okay. I also just wanted to kind of let you know where we are in terms of COVID. We still have daily sanitation happening at our restrooms. We have our hand sanitizers out of the parks. We have signs that just, give our basic Orange County public health information about social distancing and wearing masks and being safe. Also some vaccine information that we're trying to get out to people using the parks, the bulletin boards, and also signs that are placed around the park and along Riverwalk. I feel like that has been a good way to get information out to people, and maybe different people than are seeing it on the town website. And we have recently started allowing shelter reservations again at Gold Park for up to 100 people, which is in line with the state order. I haven't actually seen any large events come in yet, but I am expecting it to start happening as the weather gets more beautiful and as people start to be as there's more vaccinated people in our community, I think we will see more event reservations come in. And we are starting to allow field reservations as well. We never opened the fields for reservation last year at all. People have been able to use them, but we haven't been allowing any sports on the organized sports reservations. that is something that I'll have to keep my eye on. If there seems to be a lot of demand, then we're going to need to look and see if people are following COVID protocols. And I'm also working with the parks directors in Chapel Hill, Carver, and Orange County to have a consistent message and a consistent policy about what amenities open and in what order and to what extent. And we're trying to be consistent around the county. It's not always possible, but we stay pretty close. And that way it's just, because the general public doesn't know which park belongs to Orange County and which park belongs to Hillsborough. So if we have similar, policies during this pandemic, it just becomes easier for us to convey that information to the public. And we meet about once a month.
Steph, can I ask a couple questions?
Yes.
So I just lost my train of thought. Never mind, it'll come back to me.
Okay. So I don't know how long we'll keep up the daily sanitations. I keep reading conflicting information about whether that's really doing anything or if it's more for show. But I have budgeted it for next year. It seems to be important. We haven't turned our water fountains on. I'm just not comfortable with that. Personally, I haven't gotten comfortable with turning the water fountains on yet. So I'm gonna have to lean on Orange County Health Department to let me know, when the time is right for that to happen. If we had water filling bottle stations, I might feel differently about it. But for right now, we have signs out just to let people know that those resources are closed. Go ahead, Rob.
So I'm just curious, like, who are these people that are requesting field rentals? Are they like a birthday party wants to play soccer game, or are they actually like organized teams and they're playing games with officials and stuff?
In like pre-COVID, you mean? Like, who do we normally get?
Like
It's teams practicing and like soccer camps, or I think skills. That's what it's called, like skills groups. They're not really playing games. They're more
We're not lining fields and
developing skills. Frisbee, they use the field for like ultimate skills, soccer skills. I've seen lacrosse skills. We have a volleyball tournament that usually happens once a year, and that is huge. That thing is, that is filled. They fill the field with different courts for I think it's like doubles volleyball.
What are the fees?
But mostly it was soccer skills groups. Mm-hmm.
What are the fees for a field rental?
I think it's if I'm remembering correctly, $10 an hour.
$10.
It's not a lot. We're not like Chapel Hill, Rob. We don't get a lot of folks.
We might want to think about increasing that a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, we haven't had, it's never been a calendar that was full. I think the most we ever got is maybe 2 rentals in 1 week, like maybe a Tuesday and a Thursday hour, one season. We've also seen some yoga groups or like workout groups that are looking for outdoor spaces. And, this pandemic, it's really, I think, changing people's relationship with outside. I am interested to see what kinds of requests we get this spring and summer, because it could be very different than the things we've gotten in the past. In my, at first glance, it doesn't seem like sports is really taking off right now, because there's so much heavy breathing and exchange, and it's hard to keep social distancing and masks, especially in hot weather. So we may not see any requests from sports teams, but we might get tons of requests from groups that are doing personal fitness or personal training, one-on-one kind of stuff that used to use gyms, but just don't feel as safe about it now. Or anyway, it'll just be interesting to see what kinds of events. We've also had requests for weddings. People are looking for affordable places to get married, or family reunions as well. Had a couple people married on Riverwalk. And the last thing I have on the list, unless you guys have any other questions about that, the last thing I have on the list is just letting you know spring plantings are underway for all of our pollinator gardens. And there is a new pollinator garden at the police station. If you haven't seen it yet, you can go. It's in downtown at the main police department right on Churton Street. And the police have worked to put in a pollinator garden, and it's really beautiful. So you should go take a look at that. We'll also be doing all of the planters, freshening them up. That was something that got cut last year. So I think it will be uplifting for the community to see just some beautification happen. And of course we use native and pollinator friendly plants. I'm also having to use deer tolerant plants in the planters now because they have discovered the planters. And I have a raccoon that for whatever reason likes to crawl in, it may be a possum, I'm not sure, crawl in one of the planters on Riverwalk and just toss all of my plants out and then lay in the bed. And then he leaves these muddy footprints all over the place. He doesn't eat anything, but he just throws all of the new plants out onto the ground. So anyway, I'm gonna have to wrestle him sometime soon, tell him to stop. But I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have had any other thoughts. It's been a long time since we've met, so I'm happy to answer questions if there are any. Otherwise, I am finished.
Got nothing.
Okay,
This
so
has been nice to
before
see you all.
Before we adjourn, I just want to let you guys know that I don't know when we'll start meeting in public again, in person again. I look forward to when that happens, but we will probably be virtual for a little while longer. And if you are willing to maintain the flexibility to sort of let me pick and choose when we need to have a meeting, that has been very helpful for me because I have so many other projects going on. It just helps to sort of balance it out and spread some things out. So if you're comfortable, penciling in this night and then letting me just decide when we really need to get together and have updates, then I would appreciate that flexibility over the course of the next couple months. Once we get into the comprehensive sustainability plan and updating the connectivity plan, you guys are going to have to meet every month, and those meetings are going to be pretty intense. That will likely start in the fall. So just to give you a heads up, we'll have to go through the entire connectivity plan as a part of that process, and there'll be homework every month, and there'll be probably longer meetings than what we've had over the last year. So get ready.
If nobody has anything else, I can call for this meeting to be adjourned. Do I have a second?
I'll second that. All right, y'all have a good day.
Thanks, Jason. You too.
Cole, thank you so much. Great job chairing.
Hey, thanks for letting me fill in. This was a joy. Thanks for being patient with me.
No, you did great. Great job, Cole.
Good job.
You all well, stay safe, get outside,